नहीं कुछ मुश्किल तेरे वही हासिल जो लक्ष्य हमने मन में ठाना है। सोच बड़ी उस यही कुछ होना खुद को ही अब तो हमने पहचाना है। पर्पस लाइफ का जाना कर्तव्य एक निभाना मन में उमंग जीतेंगे जंग ले मन के संग। पैरों पे खड़ा होना है अगर अनुभव से सीखेंगे बेहतर। चट्टानों सा विश्वास हमें हम कामयाब एंटरप्रेन्योर। चले संग संग चले संग संग चले संग संग ले मन के संग।
Let's explore, let's experiment, let's execute, let's enjoy. Let's explore, let's experiment, let's execute, let's enjoy.
पैरों पे खड़ा होना है अगर अनुभव से सीखेंगे बेहतर। चट्टानों सा विश्वास हमें हम कामयाब एंटरप्रेन्योर। उत्साह के रंग बन के दमन ले मन के संग। बुलंद।
चल संग संग चल संग संग चल संग संग ले मन के संग चल संग संग चल संग संग चल संग संग ले मन के संग चल संग संग चल संग संग चल संग संग ले मन के संग।
नहीं कुछ मुश्किल कर वही हासिल जो लक्ष्य हमने मन में ठाना है। सोच बड़ी उसे यही कुछ छूना खुद को ही अब तो हमने पहचाना है। पर्पस लाइफ का जाना कर्तव्य एक निभाना मन में उमंग जीतेंगे जंग ले मन के संग।
चल संग संग चल संग संग चल संग संग ले मन के संग चल संग संग चल संग संग चल संग संग ले मन के संग चल संग संग चल संग संग चल संग संग ले मन के संग।
पैरों पे खड़ा होना है अगर अनुभव से सीखेंगे बेहतर। चट्टानों सा विश्वास हमें हम कामयाब एंटरप्रेन्योर। चले संग संग चले संग संग चले संग संग ले मन के संग।
Let's explore, let's experiment, let's execute, let's enjoy. Let's explore, let's experiment, let's execute, let's enjoy.
पैरों पे खड़ा होना है अगर अनुभव से सीखेंगे बेहतर। चट्टानों सा विश्वास हमें हम कामयाब एंटरप्रेन्योर। उत्साह के रंग बन के दमन ले मन के संग।
चल संग संग चल संग संग चल संग संग ले मन के संग चल संग संग चल संग संग चल संग संग ले मन के संग चल संग संग चल संग संग चल संग संग ले मन के संग।
ये सोच नहीं खुद तक सीमित इस देश के प्रगति का है विजन। आजादी मिले हमें है ध्येय बड़ा हो परिवर्तन।
Let's explore, let's experiment, let's execute, let's enjoy. Let's explore, let's experiment, let's execute, let's enjoy.
ये सोच नहीं खुद तक सीमित इस देश के प्रगति का है विजन। आर्थिक आजादी मिले हमें है ध्येय बड़ा हो परिवर्तन। मन में उमंग जीतेंगे जंग ले मन के संग।
चल संग संग चल संग संग चल संग संग ले मन के संग चल संग संग चल संग संग चल संग
लाखों अरमान है और सपने नए हौसले है बुलंद। चले संग संग चले संग संग चले संग संग ले मन के संग। लाखों अरमान है और सपने नए हौसले है बुलंद।
चल संग संग चल संग संग चल संग संग ले मन के संग चल संग संग चल संग संग चल संग संग ले मन के संग चल संग संग चल संग संग चल संग संग ले मन के संग।
नहीं कुछ मुश्किल कर वही हासिल जो लक्ष्य हमने मन में ठाना है। सोच बड़ी उसे यही कुछ छूना खुद को ही अब तो हमने पहचाना है। पर्पस लाइफ का जाना कर्तव्य एक निभाना मन में उमंग जीतेंगे जंग पैरों पे खड़ा होना है अगर अनुभव से सीखेंगे बेहतर। चट्टानों सा विश्वास हमें हम कामयाब एंटरप्रेन्योर। चले संग संग चले संग संग चले संग संग ले मन के संग।
Let's explore, let's experiment, let's execute, let's enjoy. Let's explore, let's experiment, let's execute, let's enjoy.
पैरों पे खड़ा होना है अगर अनुभव से सीखेंगे बेहतर। चट्टानों सा विश्वास हमें हम कामयाब एंटरप्रेन्योर। उत्साह के रंग बन के दमन ले मन के संग। ये सोच नहीं खुद तक सीमित इस देश के प्रगति का है विजन। आजादी मिले हमें है ध्येय बड़ा हो परिवर्तन।
Let's explore, let's experiment, let's execute, let's enjoy. Let's explore, let's experiment, let's execute, let's enjoy.
ये सोच नहीं खुद तक सीमित इस देश के प्रगति का है विजन। आर्थिक आजादी मिले हमें है ध्येय बड़ा हो परिवर्तन। मन में मन जीतेंगे जंग ले मन के संग। लाखों अरमान है और सपने नए हौसले है बुलंद। नहीं कुछ मुश्किल तेरी वही हासिल जो लक्ष्य हमने मन में ठाना है। सोच बड़ी उसे यही को छूना खुद को ही अब तो हमने पहचाना है। पर्पस लाइफ का जाना कर्तव्य।
Okay. I hope you all can see me. You can see my screen. So let me start this intervention, which we are doing as part of our finale week at Incubator Startup Contest 6th edition. So we are doing today a roundtable with the CEOs of incubation centers on how and why of incubation. Before I basically start this, this roundtable intervention, I wanted to walk you through, uh, like. Uh, like on a kind of orientation that I have with me. So I'll be walking you through it, and I'll be giving you an introduction of Lemon also. Uh, Along with, I'll be giving you the introduction of Innopreneurs as well, and then I'll hand it over to my co-host that I have with me. All right. So my name is Krishnakant. I head this Innopreneurs vertical at Lemon, and I'll be your co-host for today. Let me quickly orient you what is going to happen in this 2 hours that we're going to do this live stream for. So before I move ahead, many thanks to our lead partners, GIZ, which is German Development Corporation agency run by German federal government, for supporting our Innopreneurs sixth edition, and helping us conducting this edition during these last 6 months. Discover Dollar, our 2015 edition winner, a startup who had won this competition in 2015 and now supporting us for conducting this competition. Then Portiscap, which is a US-based leading organization in miniature motors. They are also supporting us for conducting this year's edition, along with our 150 other partners that we have around India who are co-creating this competition with us. So I'll quickly walk you through the introduction of Lemon. So Lemon has basically evolved as an enabling and self-sustaining ecosystem for the creation and for nurturing or for the growth of entrepreneurial ventures through various of our initiatives which we do, for propelling innovation, self-reliance, job creation, particularly for Bharat, that is tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Our major contribution, if I talk about, is includes awareness building, training, mentoring, as well as the venture creation and acceleration. So Lemon was conceptualized as founded with the vision of channelizing a huge potential of youth and idea possibilities into innovation and job creation. It has been started by Mr. Deepak Manaria and few of the other like-minded friends also. One or two of them are in the Zoom room today. Deepak was like as a first-generation entrepreneur, and earlier he co-founded an IT company, which then got merged into a global tech giant called Global Logic. And then he started one foundation, an NGO for promoting entrepreneurship. And then 2013, Deepak, along with few of his friends, started Lemon Ideas. I'll quickly walk you through the introduction or the initiatives that we've been doing since 2013. So since 2013, we've been the most vibrant ecosystem in India. We moreover work in 4 verticals. So number one is Lemon Ideas, wherein we do a lot of startup incubation, acceleration, and mentoring related activities, right? We also do consultancy to the organizations who wanted to set up similar sort of ecosystem either in their campuses or maybe in their regions. At Lemon Ideas, we work for startups, and we have a very specific focus for education, sustainable living, and environment related startups. The second vertical that we have is Lemon School of Entrepreneurship, which is very interesting, which is our new age entrepreneurship gurukul, and we do a lot of training, mentoring programs, and we run a lot of college level interventions also under Lemon School of Entrepreneurship. Lemon School of Entrepreneurship was running a recent intervention with a college called, with an university called Shere Kashmir University in Jammu and Kashmir. And Lemon School of Entrepreneurship has entered Uganda also by signing 2 of the MOUs with the universities in Uganda as well. So with this, Lemon School goes international also. Third vertical that we have is Innopreneurs, which is our competition platform. We run a flagship startup contest under it called Innopreneurs Startup Contest. Also, we do few of the idea contests, corporate innovation contest, and we run a community also under Innopreneurs. Then the fourth vertical that we have is Lemon Seed Fund, which is around funding, right? Which is evolving right now at Lemon. So this is the gist of Lemon. To be to be precise, if we talk about the impact numbers that we have been able to, the impact that we have been able to create in the last 7 years of our journey, then we have deeply mentored or supported around 500 plus startups, having accelerated or incubated around 150 of them, having deeply supported around 3,000 plus entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurs who has been through a deeper level of training intervention with us. We have 150 partners across India and few of the South Asian countries as well. Every year, we have a reach of around 500,000 people through various digital properties and platforms that we have created. Every year on 16th of January, we celebrate National Entrepreneurship Day because 16th of January is the date when our Startup India policy got launched. And we recognize entrepreneurs on that day. We have recognized so far around hundreds of entrepreneurs. Also, we run a social initiative called Lemon Gurukul, which is our I would say CSR initiative. So anybody who can't pay us, can't contribute to this ecosystem monetarily, we take them under Lemon Gurukul program, and we have supported around 300 plus entrepreneurs so far under our Lemon Gurukul program. 250 plus events we have conducted, small or big, consolidatedly, completing around 5,000 pitches. So this is what the impact number looks like. we have few of the guiding principles at Lemon, and that's why we have if you see the first guiding principle, which is the spiritual fulfillment, and that this is the reason we have around two of our mentors, particularly from psychology field. So they are psychologists and psychotherapists, having the helping the entrepreneurs to connect their purposes with their entrepreneurial journeys, right? The second guiding principle we have is innovation, then sustainability, conscience, and co-creation. Sustainability is one of the most prominent guiding principles here with us with Lemon, because at Lemon we generate our own funds. We do not actually rely on grants and other external funding. This ecosystem which we have created is entirely sustainable. We generate our own funds and sustain on our own, and that is what we believe for the startups to also do the same. So these are some of the prominent guests at Lemon, right from the government to the corporates into the startup world. Both like all of them have been constantly coming on Lemon platform and supporting various Lemon programs, right from Shri Nitinji Gadkari to Shri Anurag Thakur to Shri Madhur Bajaj from Bajaj Auto to Venki from Goli Vada Pav to Anshu Gupta from Goonj to Nixon Joseph from SBI Foundation to Her Excellency Grace Akello, who is the former Ugandan Education Minister and now the Ambassador of Uganda in India. So all of them is constantly coming to Lemon and has been a constant support to Lemon. If we talk about the partnership network, which I was referring to, so we have around 150 partners across India and South Asia, which includes a lot of incubators, a lot of funding houses, a lot of ecosystem organizations. We have around 135 of them in India, and 15 of them are basically outside India. And we have invited few of our partners, incubator CEOs, to be with us here on the round table today. So I have my co-host with me, Lieutenant Colonel Saurabh Shah. I'll be giving you more insights related to the same, but particularly this particular intervention roundtable with CEOs on how and why of incubation. This we are doing under our finale week as part of our finale week for Innopener Startup Contest 6th edition. I'll quickly walk you through the journey of Innopener so that you can be get oriented like what Innopeners is and how it all started and what level it is right now. So 2014 we started Innopener. Since then we've been consistently doing it. 2019 we started adding a lot of components into it. In 2020, we are changing the landscape to international because Indopreneurs has been to around 8 more countries apart from India this time. If we talk about our 6th edition statistics, which is our 2020 edition statistics, then we have around over thousands of startup enrollments, particularly somewhere between 1800 to 2000 of startups. We have startups enrolling from India, primarily from India and 8 more countries apart from India. We have conducted around 50 plus rounds. We have inaugurated this during October last year. Since then, we've been conducting a lot of pitch rounds. So we've conducted so far 50 plus pitch rounds, completing around 550 plus startup pitches, having around 150 plus partners. And I'm very much glad to share that 100 plus jury panel members have joined us for the assessment of these 550 plus pitches that we had done. Also, we had selected around top 100 startups from all of these 550 pitches, and we have given them a very stringent training and mentoring input of around 100 hours. If we talk about the statistics for our top 100 startups, then we have these startups, the average age of founders is 30 years, wherein 75% of the startups in this top 100 startups funnel were at the revenue generation stage. 60% of the startups in this funnel have the patent dimension. 50. If we talk about the veteran candidate that is enrolled on this platform, he was 58 years old. If I talk about the youngest participant, it is 15 years old. And if we talk about, because at Innopeners, it is not only about competition, it is about collaboration and co-creation, and we have a lot of other components also which we run in this competition platform. So we were initiating few of the investment explorations with the top 100 teams, and we're expecting around 100 plus investment threads to be initiated. 200 plus collaboration threads have already been initiated within these top 100 teams, because we have conducted an experiential collaboration activity with them during their pre-finale engagements. So we have inaugurated this 6th edition on 31st of October 2020. Since then, we've been conducting the pitching rounds across October, November, December, and January. We have done a pre-finale engagement with top 100 selected teams right from 30th of January to 14th of February. So this pre-finale engagement involves the mentoring programs, the training sessions, the investment explorations, the incubation explorations, the corporate collaboration explorations. And we had done a finale round on 18th of February, which is yesterday, and we will be doing the grand finale round on 20th of February. which is tomorrow. So tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. in the afternoon, we have our grand finale scheduled. To everybody who are watching us live on YouTube, I'll request them, to attend this grand finale, because in that we're going to have the public, which is by top 10 startups of this entire edition. Uh, as part of our finale week engagement, we are doing certain sort of programs, out of which 18th of February, we have done a panel discussion on post-COVID, what drives entrepreneurs, the problem of funding. We are doing the roundtable with the incubator CEOs on how and why of incubation. We will be doing the grand finale on like on 20th of Feb, which is tomorrow. And post that also, there are certain sort of activities planned. Like we have a startup ecosystem conference exclusively for these 150 partners that we have, wherein Sri Deepak Baglaji, who is the CEO for Startup India, is joining us for strengthening and enforcing or fostering the collaboration within these 150 partners that we have. So we are trying to basically conduct or generate value for every stakeholder on this platform. So we are available on each of the social media. You can go on any of the platform, follow us there to receive the constant update related to this. If you are actively using WhatsApp, then I suggest you to join our WhatsApp community also. It is on bit.ly/lemoncom. Let us commence this roundtable with CEO on how and why of incubation. And I have few of the co-hosts with me. I have Mr. Mukesh Asher, who is the co-founder and chief mentor at Lemon School of Entrepreneurship, and Lieutenant Colonel Saurabh Shah, who is the vice president of business development and partnerships at Lemon. And I'll now request my co-host, Lieutenant Colonel Saurabh, to please take this roundtable with CEOs ahead. Saurabh sir, over to you now.
Thank you, Krishnakant. Thank you for the quick overview which you gave to all our members, the panel members here. So with this, I welcome all the panel members to this conference which we are having on how and why of incubation. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so the panelists who are there with us today to discuss this topic are Mr. Anupam Jalote. He is the CEO at iCreate, the International Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology, located at Ahmedabad, Gujarat, which was dedicated to the nation by Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji on 17th Jan 2018. We have been interacting with them, and Hemang Vaidyan, Tejashri Shah have been our jury members at various occasions from there. We have Dr. Mohit Dubey, who is the CEO at Atal Incubation Center, MIT, ADT, the, which works under the umbrella of MIT, ADT University, Pune, Maharashtra. We had Mr. Mohit Dubey as jury panel member during our rounds, during the pre-finale rounds. Mr. Harilal Bhaskar, he's the CEO at AIC IIIT Kottayam, Kerala, and their focus is to develop societal applications using IoT, cloud technologies, or similar high-end technologies. And recently, we signed an MOU with them for taking our partnerships ahead. We have Mr. Tarun Chaturvedi. He's the Senior VP HR and Training at IIT Kanpur, and he's there with the Startup Incubator and Center, which was established at IIT Kanpur in year 2020. And he has also been our guest speaker at various occasions. So I welcome all of you to this panel discussion, and I'll now request Anupam Jalote ji to just give a brief of his organization and what do they do.
Thank you so much, Saurabh ji, for the lovely introduction, and Krishan Kant for the background on this entire fascinating journey that Lemon Ideas has been doing. Truly inspirational stuff. And we're very happy to be part of that journey for the past couple of years at least. So very briefly, iCreate is a super specialty institute for we are not peered to anything else. We are not academic, we are not research, we are not corporate. We are completely standalone and completely dedicated to the startup ecosystem. So therefore, what it means is that while we function as a normal incubator or accelerator, We're slightly larger and we do several other things. So one part of ours is the incubator accelerator, which is a 40-acre campus. We've got some very nice labs for rapid prototyping, and these are living labs. That means that if you have a thought, we encourage you to simulate it for physical products. You run a simulation on software to see how it will work out. If it is electronics, embedded systems, then you create a circuit, you print a circuit, you populate it, solder it, and test it out. If it's a mechanical thing, then you run simulation on SolidWorks, you run simulation on other software, and then you go to the labs and either you print it or you weld it or you cut it and you make it. So, what it means is that over a period of time, iCreate has specialized more on physical products than on pure software. And we have a focus triangle, which says that embedded systems and IoT is at the base. And those sensors are throwing up a lot of data. So you've got big data and analytics on top of it. And then you've got autonomous decision making and AI right at the top. So these can be put into the service of any domain that you choose. So electric vehicles is a very big focus area of ours, especially subcomponents of electric vehicles, regenerative braking, hybrid energy storage systems, battery management systems, motor controllers, motors themselves, the entire powertrain. So working on how to increase efficiency and reliability or safety. So autonomous braking and assistive driving and connected driving. So we have the ability to give deep mentorship and support in all of those areas. On top of all of that, we have deep corporate connects. So what is truly important to a startup in early stages is to understand what corporate is looking for, what the market is looking for, and some senior realistic people to say कि जो काम तुम कर रहे हो वो अच्छा है कि नहीं है, उसके लिए कोई पैसा देगा कि नहीं देगा. So it puts a very, very real twist on whatever they're doing. Additional areas, of course, are health tech and agri tech, and industry 4.0 is very, very big. So that is broadly the kind of support we do. The other bit is that we also have some frameworks which are based on a lot of analysis we've done of startups, how to select them, how to help them come to a certain level in where are they on their maturity in their business modeling, where are they in their TRL, technology readiness levels, and how do you bring them all to a common denominator. And so we do a lot of work there, and there are certain scoring mechanisms and methodologies that we've created, and pilot tested them on quite a few hundred cases, and we find them in good stead. And finally, there are some very large strategic innovation projects that we take on, which means that getting the world's best innovators to work directly with large corporates with the intent of setting up large scale manufacturing. So you could end up with a concept in your mind right now, and 2 years later, it could be a 500 crore manufacturing setup. So that is the spread that we work on. We've got a very committed team and a very engaged team of external mentors, and it's a fun place. So if you're getting serious about taking a big beating for a year or two, if you're getting serious of working very, very hard, if you're getting serious of remaining scared for about 2 years nonstop, please come to us. We'll help you.
Thank you, Anupamji. I think that was a very short thing which you told about iCreate. I think you are doing wonderful job in Ahmedabad. And yes, so we have got people from some other places also. So Dr. Mohit Dubey has joined us from Pune. So just tell us about yourself and how do the scenario works out in your area.
Oh, okay. Am I audible now?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. Thanks, Lieutenant Colonel Saurabhji, for having me here. The funny thing about incubator ecosystem is it's still developing. Right? It's in a very, very native stage and naive stage. So what Anupamji has just laid down you would find this the same copy-paste stuff typically across incubators in the country. However, just to highlight few differences which are required to build a local ecosystem, right? We also are based out of a private university in Pune, which is MIT Arts, Design and Technology. Just by the name of the institution, it's kind of blended form of arts, design and technology. So we run one of the best design school in the country. There is a film school, which is again one of the best in the country. So you have these 13 various schools on which we want to, piggyback upon and then build that local ecosystem, because Pune, mind it, has one of the largest number of academic institutions within a single city. And that's the reason why it's also called Oxford of the East. So while we all see some of these similarities between the ecosystem that has been built out in Bangalore, which is hardcore, technology driven by the likes of TCS, Infosys, Wipro, you have a second set of ecosystem that operates out of NCR, Noida, and Faridabad. The Western India's ecosystem, which of IIT Bombay, within that area of Powai, has its own unique features. However, in Pune, if you look at Pune, as I mentioned, with huge presence of student crowd, you will always find the young, dotting youngsters who want to do something or the other. So it becomes a challenging for academic institutions of how do you control that energy, how do you channelize that energy. And that's why the whole process of building this incubator at MIT ADT is, in the country, around 60 to 70% of the student base is getting into these private sort of educational academic system. It's not the IITs, it's not the central universities, it's not the public state universities, it's the private universities. So when you look at the sheer numbers, the volumes are very, very significant, and you bring it down to the Pune city, which is again one of the biggest city in terms of the young student base. So how do you drive this whole thing? And that's what makes us kind of different from most of our other incubators, is that we want to intervene at 3 to 4 levels, right? It has to be at an education level. How do you build your programs? How do you drive those interventions in the academic journey of a student, through which he's inspired to take up entrepreneurship as a career choice? Mind it, today, all the academic institutions, wherever these students go, and there are almost like 4 crore enrollments in our higher education system. So 90% of them would still be looking for either job, higher education, वो MBA में जाएंगे, GRE करेंगे, GMAT करेंगे, या UPSC के public sector में काम करना चाहेंगे. How intervene so that at least 10% of that 4 crore, अगर 40 lakh उसमें से, if they are inspired to take up entrepreneurship as a career choice, we'll probably be doing the great service to the nation. So that's the educational pillar of what we want to intervene. And we run programs that inspire these students who are undergoing into various programs, as I mentioned, under these 13 to 14 streams, irrespective of their year of education they are in. We have students from first year, second year, third year, and others, right? The pre-incubation is second pillar that we want to intervene, and we are working with the Institution Innovation Council, which has a responsibility to create a lot of these grand challenges, innovation contests, hackathons, and so on and so forth. You would appreciate that the world's largest Student India hackathon, which now happens across India, started in Pune, right? And Mr. Abid Jere, who comes from Persistent, was from Pune, now who's heading this whole thing for the country. So that intervention of pre-incubation with regards to taking this 10% of the first funnel of education, if you're able to train them and equip them to participate in problem solving through these competition, contests, and hackathons, I think from that bucket of pre-incubation, if you're able to further take 10% into incubation, you'll have a funnel which is a kind of a strong funnel for you to get your startups and build that pipeline. So education, pre-incubation, incubation, and the acceleration phase. So if you look at this whole 4 structures of the value chain of how do you inspire these youngsters from that higher education domain to get into these pre-incubation kind of activities, then further it down to 10% to incubation, and further maybe 10% to accelerator. So you're looking at, actually, you start with 4 crore, you get a pre-incubation of around 40 lakhs, you take 4 lakhs into incubation, around 40,000 startups. That's a huge number, and we have the potential to become the world's largest ecosystem within a year if we are able to follow through these 4 phases of the entire value chain of education to acceleration. As I said, we typically offer all the services that were mentioned by Anupam ji, because we are a Section 8 company, supported by Niti Aayog under the Atal Innovation Mission. And the Atal Innovation Mission has an intervention from the entire value chain, right from school level, which is called Atal Tinkering Labs. We kind of handhold, mentor a lot of these winners of this Atal Tinkering Marathon. In the higher education, it's Atal Incubation Center. And there are a lot of other grand challenges that we support through Atal Innovation Mission. And we get our incubators from that pipeline as well. So I'll stop there. Just wanted to give that perspective of what we are trying to build here at MIT ADT University with that mix of arts, design, and technology DNA into all these 4 buckets of entire value chain. Thank you. And I'll probably be happy to take questions once we get into
Dr. Moy, thank you very much. So we come to know about Pune and the ecosystem there, and how things are happening there in a private university. So going south further, I come to Kerala. So we have IIIT CEO, Mr. Harilal Bhaskar. He's from IIIT Kottayam, and he's also working in the incubation space. So let us know about them, how they are doing it.
Thank you so much, Saurabh and Lemon Ideas. Really appreciate for calling me for this discussion. And of course, we already discussed about the incubation center. Even Mohitji as well as we also discussed about how actually the incubation center works. We are also part of that incubation center, part of the Niti Aayog. So of course, instead of I'm going for the same thing again, I'm just differentiate how actually we working on our incubation center. Because we are being in the tier 3 city, the major focus for us is for the community building and societal impact. And as Saurabh pointed out, we work on the high-end technology like IoT, blockchain, and even AI and big technology on front. So connecting the dots, of course, the student, the student is a one part actually, because we are at IIIT in the campus of IIIT. Of course, there are a very good talent in the campus. As well as other side, we have industry connect, where because as being in Kerala is one of the largest acceleration system. Kerala Startup Mission is one of the largest acceleration system in India. So if you look at that, actually, the connecting the industry through the Kerala Startup Mission is much easy for us to get it done, because we have something called Makers Villas near to us, because they're having a lot of labs and other things. So we connected the industry through all this startup community. If you look at in terms of the business model, what we are trying to do is creating more community impact, rather than looking at how actually we can build a long-term profitable venture. If you look at that, actually what we have brought in recently from Uplift program, every month we are giving a 5 free incubation program for the needy people, actually financially challenged people across India. It's most of our program is virtual, being the reason that we are in a tier 3, and the challenge for the startups to come over here is really huge. So we attract on the other side, one side we have physical incubation, other side we have virtual. We don't have any co-working space program, because the challenge of the infrastructure and the reaching of the place is a big challenge. So what we have done is the identifying the startups across India, looking at in terms of one is the Uplift program, where actually needy startup can come on board. And second thing is looking at the societal impact, like water, energy, or if you look at environmental issues, all these problem, we are working through some hackathon and the challenges. Some startups are really trying to solve, even the students community is trying to solve. We actually do a permutation combination of some of the students and local people and the real entrepreneur. Maybe this this combination really trying to work out for us. Because, for example, some students are very good in campus, they're actually maybe not really much interest on entrepreneurship, but on other side they want to get the software part or technology part to be working done. Where we have an entrepreneur in the local community, where they have a challenge for working on the software or a technology or IT part. So combining both, actually we co-creating the thing. And if you look at in our ecosystem, what we do actually, the more collaboration rather than, of course, we have a connection with industry, mentors, and partners. However, we look at the best entrepreneurs in our own system. So collaboration, that's a key mantra of what we believe actually, because collaborating with other startup, they can share a lot of stories, inspiring story, how they become successful. So that actually creates a lot of value in our ecosystem. Second thing, in terms of the current thing, what we are trying to do in the Corona time is again connecting dots. We are coming with a program where actually people at home, for example, a woman at home can do a sales and marketing for MSME or a startup. So it's like kind of a training we give for a week or a two. Then they will be giving by a startup or an MSME, so that they will be well equipped to with selling a product for a services. So this is one of the program we are really focused on. And third thing we focus on in terms of the upcoming challenges, in terms of even though we are specifically say we are technology based incubator, we look at the major challenges. So now is health tech and agri tech and food technology, because in India focus area, we can our prime minister also really say that we are to really focus on these three key areas. So we are also coming on that understanding the need at how the hour, and we are focusing on how technology can be intervened in all these areas. So recently, if you look at our startup, one of the startup, is really successful in terms of they manufacture 3D printer. And then at the time of the COVID, they could able to, produce a lot of masks. They have been selling across India, and then even the exporting the mask on the time. Other startup actually more on the COVID time, they actually repurpose in terms of creating, shield. So if you look at the technology and in terms of an incubator, how we can support them is to understand what actually the current trend is, and where actually the government support is needed in terms of grant. Other parties like the connecting the vendors and partners who really create value. But the challenge, if you look at the vendor, connecting the vendors is a pro bono basis of most of the incubation center in India, where actually there is a disconnect. Initially, some mentors are joining for the startup, maybe get the initial traction may be good, but later stage what will happen actually eventually they may not get real time to invest on the startup. They're actually creating a lot of issues in the system. So how we can try to solve that? We actually come up with an idea where actually the startup and the mentor can do a mentor dating platform, like a mentor pitch. We say, for example, startup do a pitch for 5 minutes. Similarly, mentor can pitch themselves and what is their expectation from the startup. In a similar way, once the startup also do and kind of a mix and match or a dating happen where they actually collaborate. So if you're an entrepreneur or a startup, you're really looking for a deep technology space, especially on the societal impact, please reach out. That's from our side. We are ready to support you for it.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Arvalji.
much.
Thank you very much. I think the new concept which you have got dating with the mentor and the mentor
Yeah.
pitching, yeah, it's something new which I heard. Thank you very much. So now moving to the North India, where we have Tarun Chaturvedi from IIT Kanpur. So where I think it's still cold, other than the South India, which has become warmer. So Tarunji, how do you see this incubation, and what are you people doing?
Thanks so much, Saurabh. First, I would like to congratulate all the people associated with Lemon Ideas and for the effort for their sixth edition. And beyond, I'm really grateful that I've been invited again. So to speak over this panel. Uh, Before I start anything, I would like to draw and to receive attention from all the audience. I must say that HR is only 30% of my job profile. I've got a lot much more to contribute with, including portfolio management and some of the incubation process related responsibilities. Uh, in fact, more than what we have and what we do, what I would like to add is that, or let me take you through one of the cases which happened recently, and that with that I would like to uh, uh, share what we are trying to do. So it was around time March, mid March last year, when we had the pandemic still, catching the wave, and there came one of the clarion calls from all the governments, including Government of India, and we spread the message to some of our incubatees, and there came one of the companies which was a robotic company building solutions for automated solar panel cleaning with good clientele somewhere in the uh, I mean, good clientele outside India, and they said that they would like to, attempt building a ventilator, which was a really, a requirement of the day. Around the time when you had a couple of companies, automotive companies, coming out and saying that they would be building ventilators, we had a couple of companies on the gunpoint asked to make ventilators somewhere in other parts of the world. Somehow nothing fructified, and here came a bunch of youngsters, some of the graduates of IIT Kanpur, some of the researchers who offered the support, and they built a ventilator, invasive ventilator, in straight 82 days. Just imagine that a company from a different domain came and design and build prototypes, get them tested, and then again build an entire bill of materials, hand over the manufacturing process to one of the a large defense manufacturer, government PSU, and then this talks a lot about the startup ecosystem we have today in our country, that there is a startup who simply came in and can have such a fast-paced product development, and that too which has gone past the entire uh, testing, certification, etc. Getting past the so complex regulatory process, and you have a successful product which is being used across the country. We are now, in fact, this company is now exporting those ventilators to some of the other countries as well. Now, with that, how could we achieve that kind of outcome was purely because we had a tailored support system which we could provide to this particular company. We have shown faith in their talent and their ability, and we have that kind of outcome where we identified one, the experts needed, technical experts needed for that kind of device. We needed people who are supply chain experts and have got some great understanding of how things work in a country like China, who could help us get some of the components imported at the time when everyone was uh, 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 China के against नारेबाजी हो रही थी. And around that time, all those things happened. They had the necessary components made available to them. Mind you, this company is, and Dr. Mohit would be interested to hear that this is based out of Pune. And it just so happened that last year only we started virtual incubation, and this company got in with us. And this is what we are trying to do with the incubation process, that we are defining what incubating company needs are, and then based on that, can we provide support, can we provide mentorship, can we provide some of the resources that may be made available to them based on their own life stage of maturity, and further we would be able to handhold them, ensure that they are able to grow themselves, uh, make their presence felt within the market and further grow them. And that's what we are trying to do. In fact, all the panelists, and in fact, for that matter, every other member of startup ecosystem in the country are trying to do their best to make a success story out of each company they have incubated, and that's what all of us are trying to do. And therefore it simply it requires great amount of effort definitely for each of the participants. It requires a much tailored approach, a bespoke approach for some of the incubating companies, and that's what we have started trying to do. So in fact, this entire effort has been converted into a book titled The Ventilator Project, which is being launched on March 7th. So I'll probably send the link to all the panelists, and you may go through what kind of interactions that have happened around this time. So we had, founder of HCL. We had one of the Padma Shris who was part of founding team of NASCOM, and so many others who became, in fact, very critical member of a task force that could build that kind of success story within a span of, let's say, 3 months time, less than 3 months of time. And that's what is needed. In fact, if we are able to garner support for a large number of startups, I'm sure the kind of success rate we have with the startups, it's going to jump all of a sudden. And that's what I wanted to begin with today. Over to
Thank
you,
you.
Saurabh. Yeah.
Thank you, Tarunji. Thank you for the brief about what you're doing. So with this, I'll hand over to Mr. Mukesh Asher, who is my co-host for today, to take the discussion forward.
And thank you very much, Saurabh bhai. And I, on behalf of Lemon, once again welcome all our panelists here today. Anupam ji, Dr. Mohit, Harilal ji, and Tarun ji. आप सबका मैं स्वागत करता हूँ. And just a simple 3-4 questions I'd like to put across. These are the questions that we have garnered from various the so-called early stage startups or the so-called entrepreneurs. कई बार तो ऐसा होता है कि they are not in a position to tell them to label themselves as entrepreneurs also, but they are doing something which you and me from a startup ecosystem can term them as an entrepreneur or early stage startup. Provided बहुत लोगों को तो पता ही नहीं कि वो early stage में है startup के, वो बस कुछ कर रहे हैं, something of that sort. So ऐसे ही I have 3-4 questions और I'll be putting those questions to maybe one or two अलग-अलग questions मैं आप में से एक दो लोगों से पूछता जाऊंगा. Just to help our audience over the YouTube to understand what is in it for them, how can they take the benefit out of this incubation pattern in the startup ecosystem. सबसे पहले तो डॉक्टर दुबे ने कहा कि the Pune is called as the Oxford of East. We'll be happiest person, probably I say means we all will be happiest person. The day comes when people across the world will say that Oxford is the Pune of West. We are waiting for those days to come. Why should somebody call Kashmir the Switzerland of East? They should say that Switzerland is the Kashmir of West. So वैसा दिन हम लेकर के आए tourism में, education में, जिस भी field में we are working, we'll try to create that kind of scenario. Probably you and me all are trying to build up a strong ecosystem where world will recognize startup ecosystem as a model that evolved and took this shape from India, and then will be followed by world across. So we all are committed, and everybody is doing the best part that they can do. Chali sir, since we have all the 4 great personalities who are from the incubation centers, a very simple question. Normally, people say that I'm connected to this kind of this incubation, or I want to connect to some incubation. But what kind of support do the incubation centers basically they provide to the early stage startup? अभी एक मेरा सवाल है, मैं चाहता हूं कि हरिलाल जी, if you can throw some light on it, what kind of basic support do the incubation centers provide to the early stage startups?
Sure. Thank you so much, Mukesh, for asking the question. Generally, that's just rightly said that some entrepreneurs are really confused and have an idea, have a very good idea, just how would I go about with that. But on the other side, incubator looking at the business model and evaluating, do you have that, market attractiveness? So a lot of parameters are asking the question. Then, sometime, entrepreneurs themselves lost in that, questions. So I
Definitely.
believe what we have done is like, we give us some kind of a seminar to understand the parameters, what actually we are looking at, and then how actually an incubator look at those parameters, and then we explain them, and then the ask them to come back with a presentation, maybe a 5 page or 7 slides, so that easy going to them to help them to understand what we are looking at. So they will come back and say, some areas there for us, example, financial things, or maybe some business model itself. They're confused. What is a business model altogether? So we actually help them again, saying that this is a business model. You have to go, understand the business model canvas, and then value proposition. Many terminology. Sometimes the student entrepreneurs are really confused with. So in nutshell, what we do actually with an entrepreneur, do you have a product really having some customer in the market? Are you really solving a problem, or some pain point, or you're giving us some some kind of value to the customer? So we really ask that simple question to them. And they come back and say, did you talk to your customer whether this product is really needed in the market, whether they really, this product is going to solve a problem or a solution? So then they get a better idea instead of giving a lot of question to them and understanding a couple of metrics and from them. Instead of that, we actually ask them, you come back with whether your customer is really like your product or service. You come back to us. So we analyze that, and then we have some mentor who are assigned actually help these startup actually to brainstorm all these their idea again, and whether this the plan really going to work, or the product or service really going to work with the customer. So they go into the complete scientific method, and then finally they fine tune their product or service, or maybe sometimes repurpose it. And finally, they conclude the pre-incubation process. What we say, they are qualified, they have some enthusiasm and passion to build a company. Then we realize from that, kind of interaction, they get into the pre-incubation process, maybe around 10 days, then going through the entire process. Then they really can understand, yeah, this is what actually exactly I needed. So I know I have a product, I have a service, I'm planning to give a service, but I know better idea how I can really position to the customer, where really I can talk to the investor or whoever it is. Generally, most of the startup come to incubator asking for money. They're actually looking for money. Everybody need a money, but they don't understand whether they need really to be invested, or they need to can be sustainable by bootstrapping. So all these questions we ask them. It's kind of an interview to throw lights to them. So they will be kind of an interaction rather than kind of analysis we do. So they themselves realize that actually they have a potential, that their idea have a potential, or they can do better way what they were trying to do. This is a practice what we followed. Of course, if you look at the scientific method, everybody know that in terms of how actually all these incubator look at in terms of a couple of parameters, looking at market attractiveness, product feasibility, product advantages. The team, of course, the team is important. The complementary skills are in the team, and there is of course a potential to grow them. So of course, this major parameter, and in the phase one, we say the phase one parameter again, look at in terms of profitability, if they're really going to be profit potential for that. And of course, there are some factors where some of them have, we look at competitor analysis, whether the competitor really there and they're really doing good, and then what is the gap they're trying to fulfill through their product or service. And then the risk, of course, look at all these things. And then industry, of course, the industry structure itself where they are entering into. All these, of course, there's a high level things, but as an entrepreneur where they're coming into us, we generally look at them, talk to your customer and come back to us and do the exercise again, whether really have this product work or service work, or the price what you're offering is the problem, or the segment of the market segment is the problem. You have to do kind of a research first coming to us. So this is what actually the first input. Before getting into an incubator or asking for investment, you do thorough analysis with respect to your potential customer and come back to and go, reach out the any incubator. That's in the nutshell I can say about it.
Fine. Okay, Anupam ji, आप कुछ throw some light on this. What kind of basic support do you provide to early stage startup?
Well, I must compliment Harilal ji on a beautiful narration. In fact, I was just commenting that he said it beautifully. Very, very nice. Hats off, sir. You hit all the right points, absolutely all the right points. So to simply add further to what you are saying, early stage startups are a mixture of confidence, arrogance, lack of confidence, fear, a lot of those things. And they have many people who are willing to talk to them, but very few with whom they can really talk to as equals and sound out. It's a very lonely business. Starting up is a very, very lonely business in your head. So we act as the sounding board, the alter ego. See, there is one thing that people like Harilal, myself, we would understand, others, Professor Mohit, Tarunji, that the startup is here above us. We are employees, we are working. That person has the courage to not be an employee, to create something of their own, to take a beating and then create something of their own. So they come with a certain confidence and a certain amount of arrogance, which I must confess is well deserved. So to put it into hard reality, we've got a multiple set of programs that we take them through. Some of them pretty much exactly like Harilal ji described. So we have something called the Idea Accelerator. And the singular focus is to put them in front of their customer. Let the customer come back to them and tell them, is there value being created in what you're doing or what you're not doing? That Idea Accelerator actually ends up with a score, your entrepreneurship potential score. We've got mentors which take them through a curated journey. And with that score, then you get a feeling that, okay, somebody independent but related to this field has also assessed me. And on various parameters, found me to be at this particular level. These are my areas of improvement. This is something where I'm good at. The other focus that we put very, very hard is that there has to be a certain core skill or core competence that you're bringing to your startup. Otherwise, you should not be starting up. And many times we meet people who want to pull together many things and create a startup. But you cannot create a startup out of a vacuum. There is some heavy lifting that you must be doing individually. There must be something that you are really good at in your startup. It could be getting access to customers. It could be understanding the pain point of customers. It might be core technical design. It might be business modeling. It might be finance. It might be the ability to raise money. But something, there are just 3 or 4, 5 maximum key parameters that you must be very good at. And if not, then you're going to have problems. So it is a multitude of support, along with the fact that since we have the luxury of space, we also give them residence here. We give them grants, which I guess all of us are in a position to give now. We give them lab access, and at our own cost, we provide a lot of mentors, internal and external, to help them move along their journey. So, in our own way, we like to say that think of us as your startup team, a slightly perhaps older and heavier member of the team who can kick you also on occasion, but nevertheless a member of the team who you can demand things from. So if you are working, you have a right to demand from us also. This gives them comfort. I guess in our own way, all of us would be doing something similar. But early stage startups need a lot of handholding and care. Perhaps the maximum effort needs to be put there. And also there, all of us are trying to answer a binary question. Is this individual a good entrepreneur? Or is the product idea great? So what is stronger? Sometimes you have entrepreneurs who don't have a very strong idea, but they themselves are very, very strong. Sometimes you have a great product idea, but the entrepreneur, the promoter is not so strong. So we need to, at a very early stage, try to figure out what's at work here and then support that part which needs to be supported.
Oh, thank you very much. Very brilliantly brought up this point that in fact, अगर आप दोनों की बात को मैं इकट्ठा करके रखूं तो incubation centers are acting like parents and handholding the small kid and making them understand how to walk and what to do and what not to do. At times scolding them also, but then most of the time pampering them and making them take the right steps, what to touch and what not to touch. And yes, sir, as you raised the point, Anupamji, that provided at times you feel that the gentleman is maybe not a very good entrepreneur material, but the idea is very strong. But I personally feel, it's my personal opinion, that we need to help them become a good entrepreneur, because idea today is good, tomorrow it may not be valid at all. But if the entrepreneur is strong, he may come up with good ideas, or he may make that idea a good idea.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're so right. We always have to support the entrepreneur, but sometimes understand that this person may not have what it takes to
Okay.
get there. It's a personality type. बहुत ढीठ होना पड़ता है
True.
successful entrepreneur
Very
बनने
true. और इस पे हम लोग थोड़ा सा फोकस, हमारे 11 स्कूल ऑफ एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप हम इसी पे फोकस ज्यादा देते हैं. वी ट्राई एंड क्रिएट अ स्ट्रांग जॉकी rather than working on the horse, because we have a strong jockey, he can make any horse win. So ये philosophy हम लोग 11 स्कूल में we very deeply follow this philosophy. Anyway, thank you very much for wonderful answers. At least the people who are watching us live over YouTube at least have a now clear idea कि what is something that they can expect as a support at a very early stage of the startup journey from incubation centers. चलिए सर, मैं दूसरे सवाल की ओर आगे बढ़ता हूँ. Pulling on for the next question, I'll be requesting Dr. Mohit to throw some light on this, and then later on I'll be asking Tarunji to add on to it. What is the actual selection procedure adopted by incubation centers? Do you look at some basic eligibility criteria, या जो आता है जैसा आता है उसको ले लेते हैं? क्या क्राइटेरिया होता है या क्या सिलेक्शन प्रोसीजर होता है आपका? सिलेक्शन प्रोसीजर फ्रॉम योर साइड and eligibility criteria that is required in an entrepreneur or that startup for that matter. Dr. Dubey.
थैंक यू मुकेश जी. पहले तो ये सवाल के लिए, और आपने थोड़ा सा मेंशन किया था कि पुणे को ऑक्सफोर्ड इज द ईस्ट को कहा जाता है, तो मैं थोड़ा सा आपको बता दूं कि मेरा आशा वो नहीं था कि हम पुणे को ऑक्सफोर्ड बनाना चाहते हैं. आई वाज पार्ट ऑफ अ डेलीगेशन टू ऑक्सफोर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी फॉर अ हायर एजुकेशन लीडरशिप समिट, एंड आई आस्क्ड द प्रोफेसर देयर, I said, Professor, tell me, why do you think Oxford University is the greatest university on the planet in the English-speaking world? Because it's the oldest university. And then, he said, and I asked about what are the resources that you deploy to make this university the greatest university. He said, we have around 22,000 students on this whole town called Oxford, and we have around 20,000 support staff and faculty and so on and so forth. I said, Professor, I come from a place which otherwise would have been a fifth largest country if it was not a state of a university of India. It's called Uttar Pradesh. हमारे यहाँ एक भी किसी यूनिवर्सिटी को आप ले लीजिए, अवध यूनिवर्सिटी फैजाबाद में, गोरखपुर यूनिवर्सिटी, छोटे से छोटे स्टेट यूनिवर्सिटी भी 1 लाख बच्चा पढ़ाते हैं और 10,000 की उनकी रिसोर्सेज की स्ट्रेंथ है. मैंने कहा, you have a problem of plenty. You can't even think through what a frugal institution has to look for when they are building these great institutions, and we still have great institutions from our country. So just to put things in perspective, my point was that हम पूर्व का ऑक्सफोर्ड शहर बनाना चाहते हैं. यूनिवर्सिटी हमारे पास बहुत है ऑक्सफोर्ड जैसी. Just to add to that, आपने सवाल पूछा कि इंक्यूबेटर का काम क्या होता है. इंक्यूबेटर शब्द जो हम लोगों ने सुना है अपने कानों से, वह सुना है कि अस्पताल में जब बच्चा पैदा होता है और वह नॉर्मल सर्कमस्टांसेस में अपने आप को एक्लेमेटाइज नहीं कर पाता है बाहर के एनवायरनमेंट से. सो डॉक्टर्स उसको, अगर वो मैच्योर है, कुछ और समस्याएं हैं, कुछ उसको सपोर्ट एक्सटर्नल चाहिए, सो दैट ही कैन स्टैंड ऑन हिज फीट, वो बाहर के एनवायरनमेंट में खड़ा हो सके, सांस ले सके, उसके लिए उस चेम्बर में डाला जाता है जिसको इंक्यूबेटर कहा जाता है. उसी तरीके से इंक्यूबेटर का मेन रोल जो है वह ये बिजनेस इंक्यूबेटर्स है. हम लोग डॉक्टर वाले इंक्यूबेटर नहीं है, हम लोग बिजनेस इंक्यूबेटर है. किसी भी व्यक्ति को अगर बिजनेस, तो उसको इनिशियल जो भी सपोर्ट चाहिए हो उसको इंक्यूबेटर से मिलना चाहिए. अब सवाल आता है कि इंक्यूबेटर्स का रोल क्या है. मैं आपको बहुत कुछ बता सकता हूं कि इंक्यूबेटर ये करता है, हमारा इंक्यूबेटर वो करता है, बट मेरा जो मेजर काम, जो मेरा टाइम स्पेंड होता है, वो स्पेंड होता है उस जो प्रीमेच्योर बच्चा है, जो उसमें कुछ कमियां हैं उसको समझने में. अगर मैं उस बिजनेस की वो कमियां समझ सकूं, उसको मेंटरिंग चाहिए, उसको पेटेंटिंग का सपोर्ट चाहिए, उसको फंडिंग का सपोर्ट चाहिए, उसको लीगल सपोर्ट चाहिए, सीए सपोर्ट चाहिए. ये भिन्न भिन्न प्रकार की जो तकलीफें हैं, जो समस्याएं हैं उसके साथ में, वह हम लोग का रोल है कि फर्स्ट वी ट्राई टू फाइंड आउट की चैलेंज क्या है, एंड देन वी ट्राई टू सपोर्ट दैट. नाउ टू your question about how do you go about the selection part of it.
Selection.
So there are two ways globally that we have seen कि टिपिकली वी ट्राई टू फॉलो अप कि वेस्ट में क्या होता है, वाई कॉम्बिनेटर क्या करता है, 500 स्टार्टअप क्या करता है. So Western world has this luxury of inviting 50,000 applications from the globe and selecting say 100 out of it, right? हम लोग भारत में अनफॉर्चुनेटली उतने लग्जरी में नहीं रहते हैं. हमारा जो इंक्यूबेटर सिस्टम की जो प्राविस होगी वो बिल्ड हो रही है. हम किसी को भी कैसे ले सके जो कि पैशनेट हो, जिसमें विलिंगनेस टू लर्न हो, 10 साल बिना पैसे के काम करने की क्षमता हो, उसको मैं जो चाहूंगा वो सिखाऊंगा, वो सीखने के लिए तैयार हो. अगर उसमें ये 3 से 4 खूबियां हैं, क्योंकि हर इंक्यूबेटर, हर जो भी स्टार्टअप का फाउंडर आता है, कोई भी इंक्यूबेटर, उससे जब आप बात करेंगे तो वो कहता है साहब मेरे पास वर्ल्ड चेंजिंग आइडिया, मैं दुनिया बदलना चाहता हूँ, बस मुझे पैसा दे दीजिए, मैं वो दुनिया बदलना चाहता हूँ. तो मेरा सवाल सबसे बड़ा सिंपल होता है, कितना पैसा लोगे, क्या करोगे उस पैसे का, और मुझे क्या दोगे, बिकॉज आई एम एन इन्वेस्टर नाउ, आई एम टॉकिंग टू यू एज एन इन्वेस्टर नाउ. क्या करोगे उस पैसे का? तब कहते हैं सर मुझे 1 लाख भी चलेगा, वैसे 10 लाख भी चलेगा. तो मैं पूछता हूँ कि तुमको जब यही नहीं पता कितना पैसा चाहिए तो तुमको पैसे क्या करोगे लेकर के? और मैंने कहा तुमने अपने पैसे से क्या किया था पहले अभी तक? बिकॉज बिफोर आई स्टार्ट इन्वेस्टिंग इन यू, आई एम इंटरेस्टेड इन व्हाट यू हैव डन विद योर ओन मनी. क्योंकि अगर तुमने अपने पैसे से गाड़ी खरीद के और रेंटल में दे दिया तो तुम मेरे पैसे से भी वही करने वाले हो. So to put the factors, it will remain the same the way we were inducted into the corporate world. I worked with Infosys for over a decade, and I always tell them that those were the real institutions which kind of enabled us to dominate on the world scene, and we have built these organizations for the world. So it will not be changed. The core of the founders, the characteristics would stay same: willingness to learn, work like crazy. Can you work on anything? उसको वर्ड बोला जाता है पिवट. क्या आप पिवट कर सकते हैं? Well, we were trained in C Unix Oracle, but by the time we were out of our training, we were only getting projects in Java, for example, right? तो ट्रेनिंग का जो फोकस है वो इस पे नहीं है कि आपका कंटेंट क्या सिखाया जाता है. ट्रेनिंग का फोकस है कि आपकी माइंडसेट ट्रेनिंग कैसे अच्छी हुई है, आपका अप्रोच टुवर्ड्स सॉल्विंग द प्रॉब्लम कैसा बनता है. So if you are able to find out these 3 to 4 things, willingness to learn, work like crazy, work like in a collaborative fashion, the teamwork. If you are able to work with team, remove your ego part of it. कि it has to be a teamwork. कितना ही बढ़िया आइडिया होगा, आप अकेले कुछ नहीं कर पाएंगे. So if you are able to gel with other people, we look at, in startup world we typically call it like hustler, hacker, and visionary kind of an approach. So if you can build this 3 elements or 3 characters in your team, you will be able to build a successful venture eventually. And mind it, this is not a 100-meter race. It is a marathon. So if you can't, अगर तुम 10 साल बिना सैलरी के नहीं रह सकते हो, so don't think for doing a startup. So if you are able to do all of these things, so it becomes selection criteria for us to get any of these people and add value through these incubator programs, through the interventions that I mentioned, because we need to cater to one of the largest humanity on the planet, right? So we can't be as choosy as the Western world can be, probably. True. So these are few metrics that I mentioned that if I can find those characteristics in a human being as a founder, I know he's a particularly fit case for my incubator.
ट्रू, वेरी ट्रू. ये तो आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा. इस तरीके के इंसिडेंसेस तो हम लोगों के साथ भी रोज होते हैं, सबके साथ रोज होते होंगे कि वो बंदा आता है, बोलता है कि सर मेरा बिल्कुल वर्ल्ड चेंजिंग आइडिया है. उसके पहले 2 लोग वही चीज बात करके गए थे हमारे साथ में, और वो बोलता है कि सर बस 3 साल के अंदर में वो जेफ बेजोस और मार्क जकरबर्ग को करने की सोच करके आता है कि सर 2-3 साल में देना चाहता हूँ, 2-3 साल में मेक मी समथिंग लाइक मार्क जकरबर्ग और जेफ बेजोस बना दीजिए मुझे. वो ये भूल जाता कि उनको कितने साल लगे थे. बट देन यस, अगर इसमें बहुत लंबे तक चलने वाला लंबी रेस का घोड़ा अगर है तो वो एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप के अंदर में उस पे बेट किया जा सकता है. तो आप सिलेक्शन में ये देखते हैं. तरुण जी, मैं आपसे जानना चाहूंगा कि क्या सिर्फ आपका सिलेक्शन प्रोसीजर इंपॉर्टेंट है या कुछ बेसिक स्टार्टअप में एंटरप्रेन्योर जो बंदा है उसके अंदर में कुछ बेसिक एलिजिबिलिटी क्राइटेरिया देखा जाता है?
Thank you, Mukesh ji. Good that you have twisted the question. Otherwise, I had nothing to add. I've got people who have already talked lots of things. But yes, so I'll draw a couple of things from what Mr. Harilal and Mr. Anupam have talked about. So in fact, if you look at हर incubator जो है वो एक यूनिकॉर्न पैदा करना चाहता है. हम सब हमारे सबके अंदर एक ये desire है कि we should have one unicorn or one very successful company. But as soon as you have got a, let's say, applicant who has got some audacious goal, वो हम उसको बोलते हैं कि ये पागल है, इसका कुछ नहीं होगा, we cannot take him. Now that's the tragedy actually. So look at that, someone as crazy as Jeff Bezos, or so that was one of its own kind business model which he worked on. At the same time, you can see that, you know, Bansal's replicated that model almost 14 years later. So that they come, Amazon started in 94. You had in 2007 when these two guys started something similar, and they could still generate a value of $22 billion in straight 13 years. Now it's not necessary. So it tells us that the idea is not important, but you need to have an audacious goal with certain objectives within your mind, and then you have to simply scout for or run after resources. One of the other things, so if we, let's say, look at, and I'm sure, I know, being a academician myself, I know that two samples are not enough to prove your case, but still there are lots of details within these two cases based on which we can generate a good framework to have a good understanding and a generic guideline for us to follow. So here comes Amazon, which has tried so many things. So for me, like, I'll draw a few things what Dr. Mohit has said, that there is a willingness to learn. I'll probably convert that into, capability of failing fast and rebound. So there has to be, you need to know that what is working, quickly analyze and move forward, aligning with what are your needs emerging from the market and the customers you want to acquire. So one is that. Two, and the first one I've already talked about. You need to have someone who has some audacious goal, right? That's very important. So unless you have someone, otherwise you are going to have a mediocre enterprise anyway, right? Which means that, I mean, you do the risk appetite of the applicant, and then you define whether how much return it may draw. So it is incubator's own capacity to, or the risk appetite of the incubator's capacity, that would also determine the success of the incubating firm. And therefore, three parameters definitely within these, within the applicant, definitely look at. So from in our system within IITK, I can tell you that we, like everyone else, we look at the pedigree, but somehow within last 2 years, that I can tell you that there has been some change which has happened in terms of our own assessment of applications. That yes, we are looking at the strength in the business model and the market demand of some such product which is being pitched at any moment, but it is the capability of the individual. So there has to be a service model associated with the product which you propose. So unless we see that service model has been built around the product, that has been capably, aligned with the product, and how this person would be able to make a good sales post the product is ready, are three definite abilities which we watch for. If at all there are, what we have also experienced, that if there are strong innovators who come in, somehow, those guys come in with lots of fixed mindset, and there are good reasons why they have achieved success till that point in time. But unless you have that kind of attitude within those people, that they have got some predetermined direction set for themselves, some of them would succeed and some of them won't. But that is strength of the, the idea within their own mind, or the kind of, strength which they have found themselves within their own business model. Unless they see a value there, it's difficult for us to see a great value. So it is also dependent on the attitude of the individual, which is going to drive the success of the enterprise once it is built.
ओके तो मुझे आप लोगों की बात से समझ में आ रहा है कि लाइक इफ समबडी इज लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड फॉर अ जॉब इन वन ऑफ कॉर्पोरेट, उसके रिज्यूम में एक्सपीरियंस दिखना चाहिए कि उसने कौन सी बड़ी जगह काम किया और कितना ज्यादा काम किया है. उसने अगर लिख दिया कि मैं 4 इंटरव्यू में फेल हुआ तो प्रॉब्ली यू विल फीलिंग फॉर द फिफ्थ टाइम. लेकिन एक एंटरप्रेन्योर अगर आपके पास में अपना स्टार्टअप को लेकर के आ रहा है इंक्यूबेशन के लिए, तो उसके केस में अगर 2 फेलियर लिखे हुए हैं, 2 फेल्ड स्टार्टअप लिखे हुए हैं, तो प्रॉब्ली इट इज एडिंग वैल्यू दैट दिस गाय इज रेडी टू टेक रिस्क. In spite of 2 failures, he's still ready to go for the third one. So probably failure at one end is going to ruin his career, and the failure at another end is going to build up his career as an entrepreneur. So this is the big paradigm shift that the person needs to understand.
And not just that, Mukesh ji, वो आदमी जो 2 फेलियर लेकर के आ रहा है, वो इंस्पिरेशन होगा बाकी इंक्यूबेटर्स के लिए भी.
Very true, very true, very true. बहुत बढ़िया था. So this is something that should go as a ब्रह्म वाक्य for all the entrepreneurs watching us live on the YouTube. कि फेल हो गए तो चिंता करने की बात नहीं. We still have strong incubators who are waiting for us with our resume where we have written that 2 failed startups with me as my experience. So
I would like to add a comment there.
Yeah.
हमेशा ये प्रेशर होता है इंक्यूबेटर्स को अच्छी अच्छी स्टैट्स दिखाने के लिए कि we've incubated so many successful entrepreneurs. And you know, बहुत बार नीति आयोग, डीएसटी सब में ये डिबेट चलता है कि हाउ डू यू मेजर द आउटपुट ऑफ इंक्यूबेटर. एंड वन ऑफ द पैरामीटर्स व्हिच इज नेवर पुट इन is the number of failures that you've had, because we are supposed to be supporting innovation. Innovation is a risky business and it can fail. So if you have very low failure rate, that means you are taking very safe bets. You are acting more like a venture capitalist or an angel fund than like an incubator.
Innovation का लिमिट उसमें कम हो जाता है. डिग्री ऑफ इनोवेशन रिड्यूस हो जाता है when you go for a safe bet.
So Mukesh, I'll just add one statement that, from our experience, I can tell you there are lots of incubators we have who have actually failed with us. So we have, in fact, we invested in the capability of those individuals who had a learning curve with us. And we know that, yes, it's simply a business model which didn't work earlier, but it is their own capability where we are investing.
सर थोड़ा सा हमारे हिंदुस्तान में एक अनफॉर्चुनेट सिनारियो है, क्योंकि हमारा जो सिस्टम अपब्रिंगिंग का सिस्टम है उसके अंदर में अगर हमारे पास में 100 बंदे आ रहे हैं इंक्यूबेशन के लिए, तो कम से कम 1 लाख बंदे सोसाइटी में ऐसे हैं जिन्होंने कुछ शुरू करने की कोशिश की थी, वो फेल हो गए थे और उनका एंटरप्रेन्योर का करियर वही खत्म कर दिया गया था और चुपचाप नौकरी पे लग जा, ये सर तेरे बस का काम नहीं है. तो ये थोड़ा सा अभी हम लोग जब इस तरीके की ओपनली बात करना चालू करेंगे कि वी सेलिब्रेट फेलियर्स. हमारे लेमन के अंदर में एक बहुत बड़ा स्टेटमेंट लगा हुआ है जहां हम कहते हैं कि वी सेलिब्रेट फेलियर्स. तो ऐसा जब हम बहुत ओपनली बोल्डली कहना शुरू करेंगे, तो वो यंग माइंड जिसने फेलियर को फेस किया है, वो और खड़े होकर के कहेंगे नहीं अभी मुझे और मौका चाहिए, अब मैं फेल हुआ हूं तो मैं और मजबूत हो गया हूं. वी आर लुकिंग फॉर दैट थिंग्स टू हैपन, एंड थैंक्स टू इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर्स लाइक वी ऑल हैव टुडे हियर कि भी हम लोग इस चीज को और ज्यादा हाईलाइट करने की कोशिश करेंगे. मूविंग ऑन टू द थर्ड क्वेश्चन. A very simple question. ये मैं अनुपम जी आपसे पूछना चाहूंगा पहले, और उसके बाद मैं जाऊंगा डॉक्टर दुबे के पास, कि इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर्स, हर इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर्स का कोई अपना प्रेफरेंस होता है किसी सेक्टर का, किसी डोमेन का, या वो रैंडमली किसी भी अच्छा जो लगा उसको उठा लेते हैं?
नहीं, ऐसा कभी भी नहीं होता है मुकेश जी कि रैंडमली उठाएंगे. सो जनरली हम कहेंगे कि 2 ओवरराइडिंग प्रिंसिपल्स होते हैं. एक तो वी आर omnivorous, वी विल सपोर्ट एनी गुड एंटरप्रेन्योर हु कम्स, because at heart all of us want to support entrepreneurs and we understand that project और entrepreneur थोड़े 2 अलग चीजें होती हैं. However, because of either the skill set of the team there, or the personal inclinations, or access to mentors, or some domain expertise that resides in you, you start developing a certain weightage towards a certain. तो हमारे केस में जैसे हम लोग प्रोडक्ट बेस्ड को थोड़ा ज्यादा प्रेफरेंस देते हैं. IT product ho ya physical product ho, but we prefer physical products a little bit more than pure IT applications. But if you come with a social enterprise, an agri-tech or a health tech, we'll still look at you. We'll still take you on. And I think all of us do that because first of all, it's the entrepreneur and then it is the project. So ये तो रहता है थोड़ा सा.
ओके डॉक्टर दुबे, आपको क्या लगता है कि भी किसी एंटरप्रेन्योर ने अपने इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर को चूज करने के पहले अपने डोमेन का और इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर की स्पेशलिटी को मैच करने की कोशिश करना चाहिए, या जस्ट बिकॉज दैट इज क्लोज टू मी और दैट इज मोर इजी फॉर मी टू गो एंड वर्क विद दैट इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर, उस तरीके से चले जाना चाहिए?
थोड़ा सा मैं क्वेश्चन को पलट देता हूँ.
ओके,
क्वेश्चन को मैं पलट ऐसे देता हूँ कि इंक्यूबेटर अगर हम अस्पताल के जैसे देखें, क्या सारे वो बच्चे जो खड़े नहीं हो सकते हैं इस समाज में जाकर के फॉर वेरियस रीजंस, वो अगर मेरे को उनको सबको इंक्यूबेटर की जरूरत है, तो अगर मैं ऐसा इंक्यूबेटर हूं जिसपे कि यूवी लाइट का सपोर्ट सिस्टम नहीं है, तो मैं उस बच्चे को अपने इंक्यूबेटर में क्यों रखूंगा? बट आई स्टिल नीड टू फाइंड आउट कि उसको यूवी सपोर्ट चाहिए. अगर वो बच्चा जिसको कि न्यूनेटोलॉजिस्ट सपोर्ट चाहिए, आई वांट टू फाइंड आउट कि हु इज द बेस्ट इन द टाउन हु हैज द न्यूनेटल केयर. So similarly, since we are academia based incubator, so we run 13 schools as I mentioned, so we will get all the kind of student base, we will get all the kind of startup founders जो कहेंगे साहब हम दुनिया बदलना चाहते हैं. Majority of my portion, majority of my time would go in understanding their psyche, understanding their pain points, and then figuring out कि बस इसको चाहिए क्या असल में, and can I provide them what he needs. So as an incubator, for me to just show the numbers, it doesn't make sense, because for me it's outcome, not the total output. I'm not a university कि मैं एक साल के बाद कहूं कि मेरे कॉन्वोकेशन में 2000 यूनिवर्सिटीज की डिग्री बटी है. मैं यही कहना चाहता हूं कि मेरे पास 10 थे लेकिन 2 यूनिकॉर्न बनेंगे. So my point is कि ये हमको as an incubator देखना पड़ेगा कि if I am not able to support this guy after my initial deliberations, after my initial diagnosis, can I position him, can I route him to the best incubator that I know of my own network? So for example, if I know Harilalji supports the best technology support startup, because he has built that ecosystem around that focus area. So if, for example, if a startup comes to me and he says कि सर मेरे को space में कुछ startup करना है, after talking to him, his requirements, if I find that he needs lot of mentoring in space tech, maybe I'll route him to my incubator, of our network, who's based out of Bangalore, because वहाँ ISRO का support है और institutions का support है, funding के players है वहाँ पर. But if he comes to me and says कि सर मेरे को कुछ defense में करना है, I know I have a strong presence of defense segments right here in Pune, so I will be I'll be in a best position to support this guy. So irrespective of whether I am, on my own, will I be able to support, or because of my presence in the ecosystem, can I be an enabler to make sure that this guy succeeds? After all, as I mentioned, कि incubator का काम है कि उनका success अगर होता है startups का, तभी मेरा incubator का success है. I'm not driven by the output as the numbers itself. So to answer that question, it's the incubator's responsibility to invest in the resources that I know I can build the best ecosystem and environment right here, which will support my startups, and let the other startups connect to the right incubators who have invested in building their ecosystem at the respective places. So, we need to also act as a routing agency with respect to the better outcome of these startup.
So what I understand from the both of you who spoke on this particular subject is that it is not the sole responsibility of an entrepreneur to decide amongst the incubators all across the India that where he should go. He can go wherever he finds comfortable. It is the responsibility of that particular incubator to decide whether this startup is suitable for my incubator, or should I guide him to some another incubator who specializes in that.
Absolutely.
So he should feel comfortable कि मैं कहीं भी जाऊंगा, I'll be redirected to the right place.
Yep.
तो ये कॉन्फिडेंस के साथ में वो कहीं किसी भी इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर में जा सकता है. So to all the startups or entrepreneurs who are watching us live over YouTube, कि आप किसी भी, you are free to go to any incubation center which you find comfortable, with assurance that if that particular incubation center is not equipped to guide you, he will re-guide you, redirect you to the right incubation center. Fine. Moving on to the last, looking at the time constraint, moving on to the last question that I need to ask. So I'll be putting this question to Tarunji and Harilalji. So since Tarunji is speaking last every time, I'll give this chance Tarunji to speak first and then Harilalji. बहुत सिंपल है, हालांकि इसमें से few things you might have already covered during your introducing your incubation center or during answering some other questions, but a very specific answer for this kind of question. What type of mentoring and industry connect do your incubation center really provide to an early stage startup? Part one. Part two, do you have the capacity to connect them to investors also? क्योंकि आपने खुद ने ये बात का एक्सेप्ट किया है कि हमारे पास जितने स्टार्टअप्स आते हैं उनमें से सबसे पहला बेसिक सवाल होता है कि सर मेरे को इन्वेस्टमेंट करवा दो, सर मेरे को फंडिंग करवा दो. तो ये दो क्वेश्चन है. पहला कि किस तरीके की मेंटरिंग और इंडस्ट्री कनेक्ट हम लोग एज एन इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर उस एंटरप्रेन्योर को, स्टार्टअप को प्रोवाइड कराते हैं, और दूसरा क्या हम उसको इन्वेस्टर कनेक्ट भी करा कर देते हैं. तरुण जी पहले आपसे.
Thank you, Mukesh ji, for changing the order. I'm really delighted. Thank you. So to answer the two questions, one, that we not only look at providing the support, the technical mentorship, the business mentorship, we also ensure, see what our experience is, and probably others on the panel may agree, and probably because you handhold lots of startups, so you may already know that there is a huge gap between the uh, absorption capability of the entrepreneur, because they come with very fixed mindset to solve the immediate problem, and they don't have a long horizon with them. And two, that the mentor who comes in is always looking for a long term. They would like to have a 1 year or 3 year long horizon to help them, all help the mentee solve their problem. And therefore, there is a huge gap between what they seek and what is offered. And we provide that some sort of intervention, some sort of translation, mediation, whatever you may like to call it. And we try to get the mentee to have a longer term view, so that they not only try to address the same problem which they have, but some of the challenges that may arise once they solve the current problems. And two, that we try to mellow down the kind of input that is being received from the mentors. So that role is important for all our portfolio managers. So we have got a team which works very closely with these two important stakeholders, important pillars of our incubator. And in that process, yes, the portfolio manager has to regularly interact with the incubating firm. At the same time, do a matchmaking also, that the current problem would be able to get solved by, or someone may throw more light on the dimension of the current problem, and probably guide and elaborate or enumerate the kind of challenge the incubating company is facing. So that role portfolio manager also does. On the kind of investment which we may be able to facilitate, so I can tell you that we have got the founder of India Angel Network, Dr. Saurabh Srivastava, who's on our board. And with his presence, I can tell you that there are greater opportunities which have flown in now. More than that, I can also tell you, though it's not in it's not in public domain, but we are trying to gather support from several funding agencies. We're trying to create a venture fund which is available for large group of startups, and that is beyond our own startup set. So in a way, what we are trying to do is to extend the set of activities we carry out, so typical incubation process as well as some venture funding activities we want to start with. We want to formalize this process with some grant from government support, some PSUs, etc. At the same time, some CSR funding as well. And in that process, I'm sure. So what we have done. So the case I've already talked about in my introduction, that there was a company which could create a ventilator in 84 straight days. We provided, help them get some good funding as well, some advanced level funding as well. So not necessarily seed funding, but much way beyond Series C and the sort of funding we were able to help them generate. There are few other companies where we are able to get next round of funding. So that's what we have started doing in last couple of years. We want to ensure that those who become, so there is definitely a fixed period defined through our process, because 90% of the grants which we receive are from government, and there is a specific period for which we can support the incubators. But we wanted to remain associated with the companies where the support is needed, and we are able to help them get in touch with relevant investors. Of course, I mean, being IIT Kanpur give us huge access to our own alumni base who have been successful as a professional as well as entrepreneurs. This gives us a greater advantage to help our incubators in different other ways as well. I hope I'm able to answer your question.
या वेरी ट्रू, वेरी ट्रू. आपकी बात से मुझे ये तो समझ में आया कि हमारे पास जो the entrepreneurs who come to us, they are in the mode कि please give us an instant solution, whereas we want them to have properly marinated so that they can create a long term solution. So ये mismatch होता है initially, then it becomes the responsibility of we as an incubation center to help them with such type of mentoring that their instant mindset is slowly shifted into long-term planning. Fine, Harilalji, from your side.
Yeah, I think Mukesh ji and Tarun ji already said everything. So I just add a little bit of different perspective on this. Even Anupam ji also point out and on that point. Basically, if you look at, I already talked about the mentorship program and dating, what we have tried out. If you look at the mentors' expectation, that's the aim. If you really look at the mentors, what their expectation, that's a challenge. If you really look at, we actually have give multiple mentors for the one startup, or in a different phase. The early stage, and of course, they have, maybe look at the MVP development, prototype development, where they need a couple of technology guys, maybe some kind of mentors, even in-house mentors. Sometimes what happen, actually, we may need to, say example, some startup in the late stage, they need to go-to-market strategy, or they pan-India level marketing for them. So what we generally do, and we find, acquire some of the, new even mentors for them, right? Because we already have a mentor in the system, but they may not able to support sometimes. For example, somebody want to go global, even though they have a product and everything, even though we convince them, they want to, test and fail. As you write, some of you, even Moji was saying test and fail. Of course, they would say that, no, let me try it, because we are saying that, no, even though we give all the information, they want to try to know our target market is in global, not in domestic market. Then we say, no, we have to proving your domestic market before you go to go global. But of course, some kind of differences happen where mentor actually intervention in each areas, actually coming to different mentors, go through the startup and making sure that they understand the system, and they don't want to go faster, and that the startup journey is not very short one. It will take time. Of course, couple of pivoting and everything happen. In terms of the investment, through the mentors, I can give an example. For example, one of the best mentor, like in our system is Vivek Bhumani. He actually, he himself is actually a investor as well as supporting the startup. So what happened, actually, his inspiration is to support the startup in entire life cycle, starting from the idea to get into the investment. So what actually this kind of mentors, what they do is they make sure that the thesis can be proven, because your business model is viable. Of course, he will, as soon as a new startup comes in, he will of course kind of analysis their business, a presentation himself, and say that, no, these are the weak area. He inform other vendor who are working along the startup can work on that. And finally, this once they reach a level where actually they can be invested either in the seed level, or maybe in the angel level, or maybe in the VC level, he himself actually interested on the startup and take it to the next level. So there are some cases happen. He has supported some of the startup in our system. Apart from that, what we have done is Even Tarunji point out, alumni things actually, if we are very brand new in triple IT, however, I'm an alumni of IMK, where actually IMK actually experimented, maybe, by, all this alumni is investing on the startup, because IMK Live itself is one of the leading, incubator in South. They actually, what had happened is all the alumni are investing on this startup, because they have created like a venture capital fund inside the campus or in the institute. They can even alumni like me can invest on 1 or 2 startup by through this system. And second thing is, we also build a community. Being in Kerala in the place called Pala, this Pala is like very rich people. All these people are, most of them are settled. You know that in Kerala people are going abroad as a nurse or some other job. This place especially people are in Europe. So what we have done is actually we have a discussion with all these local people, saying that see, we have a good startup. Why can't you, instead of investing on the real estate, why can't you have a kind of a discussion with dialogue with this startup and understand then how actually you can multiply your money investing on this startup. That's the way actually we attract the one kind of investment. Other thing is like if you look at in terms of we already know that seed fund, our Prime Minister Modi ji is coming with one of the investment, we say like 965, I think exactly not remembering, that actually distributed through the incubator from starting from April 1st. So all these applications, we are encouraging the startup or entrepreneur who are watching this program, of course, you should have a DPIP registration for that application. So you have to make sure all these business plan is ready and you validate it with one of your incubator nearby or anywhere in India. It's like like Mohiji said, actually, now this is a vast connection. We can connect to any incubator. Everything is happening in virtual world. Maybe that before pandemic, after pandemic, of course, people are getting into more virtual world. So you apply, you validate your business plan, make sure you have everything ready, submit on time, so that April 1st the application is open. You try to invest, you try to apply there. You get a seed fund for 10 lakhs to 15 lakhs. You don't need to dilute equity. Only you need to actually work with one of the incubator, that is other incubation centers, or we say AIM has provided this multiple AICs across India where you can connect one of them and get applied there. So if you look at, if I think I didn't exactly answer your question because you already answered is given, but I'm helping the viewers who are actually looking for what they can do, because it's the last question to us. So first thing is, you need to understand, let me summarize the things. You need to really look at, the journey of, working with a mentor is very critical. Of course, there are, your idea, maybe sometimes startup is say, I don't want to disclose my idea. I don't want to associate with mentors. The recent cohort, what happened, one startup was saying, I don't want to work with mentors. Why? Because my idea is going to be strong. I said, no, idea is anybody. You can, idea, if you tell to any presentation or anybody having the same idea across India, if you look at multiple people working on the same idea. But the only problem, how you're going to execute, that's important than your business model. Then, that challenge, you have to really understand that, the idea is not the important thing. It's all about how you're going to execute, how you take your journey from as an entrepreneur to completely a marketable or sellable product. And, investment also, it's not a critical thing. If you look at the Zerodha or the recent past unicorn in India, Zoho, this is not invested by anybody. They're actually, self-sustainable or bootstrap the company until they become successful, right? So it's investment is not a criteria for your success. It's all about how actually you can really cater your market, or how actually you can create some kind of value to society. You look at all these parameters and work with the mentors through your incubator nearby, because the government is giving a lot of facility now in India across. Even though, like Anupamji was saying, in India is, if you compare with India and the global, we are still in the nascent stage of incubators. You cannot compare with Y Combinator or Silicon Valley culture. We cannot bring it over here. However, we can still work towards, as an India, as a, like why can we, start beginning now? All the entrepreneurs can, understand what, this kind of a forum actually help actually, and really thanks to, Lemon Ideas, of course, who are giving this kind of insight to the, many people who are watching it, because maybe not doing that actually, they're also looking at incubator as a funding agency. It's not really. It's all about, giving a lot of value proposition from your journey. They will help you like a friend or as a parent, as Moji was talking about, like a parent, they're going to help you out. That's what from my, my side, because anyway, I just want to summarize this. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Harilalji, and yes, Tarunji, for putting in the point strongly over here. We have talked about what kind of mentorship does an incubation center provide, how they connect you to the proper investing agency, what kind of things that an entrepreneur or a startup should demonstrate that he or she, that startup gets selected for incubation? What are the things that an incubation center looks into any kind of a startup or entrepreneur to pick them up for incubation, further incubation, selection procedures, and probably the things that actually incubation center provides. The details we have discussed here today. And one point that came out here is that probably we are making them understand this works and this does not work. Now, this is something that has hit very hard to everybody. One small point of caution that comes to my mind here for all of us who are mentors here, that we have an experience of, say, mentoring, say, around 100, 200, 400, 500, depending upon our association with the startup ecosystem. If any startup or an entrepreneur comes and talks to me about that, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it this way, I immediately start evaluating it based on my experience with similar kind of an startup or similar approach of an entrepreneur. And I come to conclusion, this works and this won't work. And I tell the gentleman, I'm sorry, this won't work. Am I not creating a contradiction of what basic spirit of entrepreneurship is? That if it's innovation, nobody knows whether this is going to work or not. I can simply, you and me, when I say you and me as a mentor can simply say, probably this is not that easy. Let us work on it. And as rightly said by Harilalji, the entrepreneur at time wants that, give me the chance to fail and learn. So we as a mentor should strongly create that kind of environment where just giving a statement is not the right thing. Probably help them learn by creating that kind of a failure or facing that kind of failure. Well, thank you very much from my side for helping me spread the message across to the community of entrepreneurs over YouTube who are watching us. And I think Saurabh, I have some more points. Saurabh, over to you.
Yeah.
Mukesh ji, may I slightly rudely interject? I had to leave. So with due apologies, and thank you all to everybody. It's been a lovely session. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. So thank you for being with us.
Okay, over to Saurabh.
Yeah. So I have only one question which I want to put to all of you. So how do you think the spirit of collaboration and co-creation can be done between the incubators? Because we are all working in pockets and we are having our own connects where we are trying to support person. If I know somebody in other incubator and I know I can connect him there, but is there any mechanism which is there in existence or can be developed between incubators so that we can co-create and collaborate at a level? Are we having some sort of platform to do this? My question is to Tarunji.
Saurabh, in fact, that's what we are already doing. So I think Lemon has brought us all together, and that would further enhance the relationship all of us have among each other, and then that would pave the way further for any further collaboration that might happen. But at the same time, because this again remain dependent on the individual capacity and network access, and therefore there has to be some improved way, some mechanism where we define the resources accessible to an incubator as well as the network access they have, based on which we identify which incubator is capable in what specific domains, and then improve the collaboration, build complementary collaboration, and that may enforce in some way or the other, ensure that the applicant or the incubatee or the entrepreneurial aspirant would reach to the right place wherever he or she gets the best help. Which also mean that beyond our own effort, there has to be some, policy driven changes that we may bring in that would simply enforce what is needed. Though I don't have any specific input on that by way of policy, what can be done, but definitely there has to be some mechanism that is to be built.
Okay, Harilalji, any mechanism in your side which you see? Is there any mechanism or you also feel that there's a gap?
Of course, I think the Saurabhji, what he's brought in a good question, and as well as you already the Lemon is doing a lot of work on this regard. In my opinion, what we can do is we can do a SWOT analysis. I'm getting into some strategic level there, understanding each incubator in terms of who's collaborating. We can create a platform like Lemon can create a platform where all these incubator can collaborate with you, where you understand what is the strength point. Maybe sometime we have a good network. One of our strength may be on technology. Sometimes our network may be, strength may be on mentorship. We have a lot of mentors. And sometimes, what happened, we have a lot of connection with international clients or maybe the funding agency. So what happened, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? Every time what happened, new incubator come, they had to go through this example onboarding process. Maybe you look at what kind of onboarding process you have. What kind of the ERP product you have inside to manage entire process. Do you have that one? So looking at the question, you're comparing with one incubator with other incubator. There are some incubator are outperforming because of this process and then the technology enhancement there. So you need to really understand which incubator having that process in place, so that it's a very less effort. Understanding that we can collaborate. Some of the incubator is presenting, yeah, this is my strength in terms of I have an ERP that actually specifically work for the incubation process at all. Starting from the driving the application to end of the journey of getting acquired or getting going to IPO or getting investor. So this somebody may be having that kind of process, we don't know. So we need to really understand that kind of a study with all incubator in India, either academician or even, of course, the AIM is doing a lot of effort in that. Actually, they're putting across connecting all the incubator across AICs and then trying to collaborate. They can do a lot of section. Apart from that, AIC is one part. Apart from AICs or AIM, of course, there are other incubators in India as well. They are also doing private incubators. They're really doing good, actually. Maybe because of the reason that, they have a larger network access, or maybe, getting connected to the good investors. So we need to understand all these components separately. And then we do somebody in the academic side, or maybe somebody like you actually taking a lot of initiative. You can intervene there and, I can kind of interview, can do what is the best process you implemented and how much efficiency you improved, how much startup has been graduated, how many startup has been got invested, or somebody has, how many unicorn, or maybe some of the successful company you created. Maybe sometimes accidentally some startup are getting incubated in your own incubation space. That doesn't you don't even put anything, right? Still startup becomes successful because you already have have been successful in the past. So that cannot be measured until and unless you really spell out what exactly you have done with the startup. What was the previous status before they get incubated, and after the incubation how long they've been with you, and then what happened, the transformation happened within the incubation center. These kind of analysis is really important. Otherwise you're studying successful startup out of the incubator and saying that because of incubator this startup becomes successful. That may be not the reality. That maybe you're looking at the kind of a lens. Actually you're only looking at the success and failure, but not understanding the entire process. I think this kind of initiative, of course, Lemon Ideas can take forward, and actually you are already doing that wonderful thing. I think we request you to take this initiative from your side. We are all AICs and other incubators ready to collaborate with you for this initiative.
Thank you very much, Harilalji. Thank you for the insight. Dr. Dubey, one question I have, which is the incubators are always seen as a cost center. Can they be seen as a profit center? Because we always are getting funded for running these type of incubations, but can they become self-sustainable over a period of time?
So before I answer that, because I think on the last one, I missed out, and I had to just run to get my battery to the computer, to the laptop. So see, AIM में एक initiative किया था. So they used to have a physical training. We went to Ahmedabad for the CEO's training of all the incubators, and then we went to Bangalore to have that training. Then we went to Hyderabad. So this 6 months affair of meeting and greeting each other physically, all the CEOs of the AIM network AICs, that was a fantastic opportunity to mingle with each other. Mind it, we can learn online, we can learn in the classroom, but the real friendship, people to people connect, will happen off of office hours, right? So if I want to interact with and have a friendship with large number of CEOs, that will only happen when we meet across the table, across the day-long initiatives. And that's why if you look at the importance of the offsites in the corporate world, I mean, that's the reason, right? I mean, you may work across the geographies, but typically they will have these once in 6 months kind of an offsites where these leaders would come together on a resort or a place where they would physically interact so that they learn what happens in one geography versus another geography. So similarly, and COVID has kind of made us realize that our physical interaction, physical meeting, physical friendship cannot be replicated or cannot be substituted by this virtual world. So the best of my friends in the AIC network itself are the ones that I met in Ahmedabad, I met in Bangalore, I met in Hyderabad. So to answer that question, once we are now going to open up, we'll have these meetings wherein the CEOs of these incubators, because that starts with the top level leadership to first have a camaraderie, to have the understanding, because on top of my head, I know which are the top 5 CEOs who are running the best incubators in one area or the other area. And I immediately send them out to those friends of mine who are heading these incubators, right? So it will have to be fall back on these offsites kind of initiatives or trainings where the camaraderie. After all, we all are still a social animal, right? So if I drink coffee with you, Saurabhji, I'll probably have a more confidence with sending someone to Saurabhji because I know you are going to take care of him in a good sense, rather than just doing a website and listing down my services and filtering those through. So I think we'll go back to those normal days when the travel open up. The second part that you asked, or the question that you asked me about the sustainability, let's understand the history of incubators across the world. All of them started with being a rental model, right? The co-working spaces kind of a model, and then they took over the role of becoming kind of an accelerated with some fund flavor built into that. So they kind of started becoming a fund owners and fund managers kind of thing. Unfortunately, we can't be any of them, right? Especially the ones who are based out of academia. In India, academic institutions are still non-profit organizations, right? Even if we are private institutions or private universities, they are still non-profit organizations. So if you look at incubators and their self-sustenance, right, it has to model along what most of these institutions would transform into. So if we are building these incubators into mentor-driven programs, if we are looking them to offer these helps in terms of providing the network access of funding agencies for that matter, right? So what we are saying is that these organizations would be like a bridge between what a startup needs and what is available across the network, right? How do you make that kind of a organization sustainable? Either it could be through the funding agencies like government funding agencies, which has to be the maximum funding contribution across the world. This has happened. This is not new to India. The ecosystem that have been built for the incubators across the world have initially been funded extensively by the government organizations. Second comes the corporate innovation programs, corporate funding. Unfortunately, in India, the total spend of CSR or the funding that comes on the research and innovation is 0.7% of the GDP. But out of that 0.7%, 0.6% of the funding comes from government. And it goes to the government institutions like DRDO, CSR, labs, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, only 0.1% of that GDP is from the corporate. That needs to increase. So a lot of these incubators, if they have to sustain initially, they will have to be funded by either the corporate agencies, corporate world, and the government agencies. Once they are able to build that lever of the programs, if they are able to build some credentials of running these meaningful programs, and they kind of generate these best outcomes in the form of valuation kind of startups, then these incubators can be kind of a step into a role wherein they are saying, because we have picked up these equities in these portfolio startups of my incubators, I'll start generating return on investments. But initially, all these incubators world over, they have been funded either by the government or by the corporate partners. So we are in that stage wherein most of these incubators are starting to reach out to these corporates for support. And while we are rolling out these programs, There are some of these mix of all these, revenue mix of doing some co-working space rentals kind of thing, or offering some of these, seed funding kind of thing, so that we can generate some return as a fund. So right now it's all mix of all the revenue levers, as I mentioned, be rental from our incubators, the equity ownership among our portfolio companies, or running the programs, running the events. But essentially, it has to be substantially built by the contribution from the government to begin with, and the corporates to pull in into those resources before we become self-sustainable in a big way, that we can truly call ourselves as the sustainable agencies or organizations who can support this vast network of startup incubators.
Thank you, Mohaji. I think India is in a very nascent stage of incubation and startup. So it will take some time for us to build that strength in our incubators to become self-sustainable. That's what you want to say. With this, I think we are now running short of time. We'll move to the closure. So I'll just take the closing remarks from the panel members. So at the end, I'd like Tarunji to start with a closing remark, what he has to say about the discussion which we had today.
So I would rather say that I would make remarks to commence a new journey rather than making a concluding remark. Uh, there is great amount of learning which each of these incubators that has to undergo. Uh, we have to build our own niche. We have to build our own resource repository. We have to build our own network of incubators to help out each other, support each other, to ensure that each of those incubators are successful. Somehow, as the percentage of startup success is very poor, dismal across the world, I can tell you that we have almost uh, 18% success rate with our startups, which is quite strong, and we are raring to improve further. Uh, when I joined, the team size was almost 25. Critical team size was much less. By end of this year, we are going to be 70 plus. That's what we are trying to do. Even before growing the incubating companies, we are trying to grow ourselves. But more than the number of people, I would say that it is the capability, it is the resourcefulness to make, further strengthen the support system to the incubators which we have, and further, uh, go beyond the boundaries. So in fact, this year we also started virtual incubation, and supporting uh, lots of incubators outside Kanpur. In fact, now we have got a Noida Extension Center, which is going to be titled as Innovation Hub. So that's going to happen in next couple of months. But even before that, we have got a company where majority of its team members are outside India. It's simply that there is a requirement for getting incubated with us. They have to be an Indian company, and therefore they have been incorporated in India. I would simply say to end that a couple of years back, a scientist said that finding life in the space is matter of time now. So which means that the life is existing out, beyond us. It's a matter of time that we are going to have unicorns emerging out of these incubators. And I'm sure all of us are eager to see that day very soon. All the best to all the participants. My good wishes to Lemon Ideas and the entire team. Thank you.
Thank you, Tarunji. Thank you. Yes, I take the next, Harilalji, your closing remarks, please.
Thank you so much. It was a great program, not only for the startup who is listening it, for us also, of course, learning from each other is very important, as Saurabhji already pointed out. Collaboration is a keyword, key mantra, not only for the startup, but also for the incubators, because, and for the, of course, the point I'm taking again, humility is very important for the startup, because, you don't need to afraid of failing, because you need to fail multiple times, and you're actually getting into polished. Finally you get into the final destination. So final remark for you is all about like eager to learn, should keep humble yourself, and make sure that you're ready to collaborate with anybody. The learning can happen from anywhere. And then all the very best for all of the participants, as well as the Lemon also for conducting. I wish actually we could conduct more program like this, where actually everybody can learn from each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arilal ji. Thank you. Dr. Mohit, over to you for the closing remarks.
Well, first of all, thank you, Mukesh ji and Saurabh ji, for having us here. And it was a lovely interaction and a lot of learning experiences, with wonderful set of panelists. For all of us, we need to understand the startup founders of this country are very, very passionate, are very, very ingenuine in terms of finding the solutions. So we need to let our egos go. उनको हमारी जरूरत नहीं है, हमको उनकी जरूरत है. And if we can understand that the incubators needs to put together their acts together and not become another university, college, or something else, which try to struggle to fill their seats at the end of every academic year. We need to think through that. If we are able to collaborate in this triple helix model of government, academia, and corporate, we'll be able to build this ecosystem in a much, much better way. So if we are able to, if we want to see this new change, we need to change ourselves first. And the COVID has kind of got this realization that if three of these pillars of any economy of any country can work together, they can create wonders. So I think अंत में जितने भी आपके startup founders देख रहे हैं, with all humility, I would like to just tell them that मंजिलें मिलेंगी भटक कर ही सही, मंजिलें मिलेंगी भटक कर ही सही, गुमराह तो वो हैं जो घर से निकले ही नहीं. So please, आप लोग घर से निकले. आप लोग के लिए ये सरकार, ये इंक्यूबेटर्स का पूरा इकोसिस्टम, कॉर्पोरेट्स, हम लोग कोशिश करेंगे कि कोई कॉर्पोरेट ऐसा नहीं छूटेगा जो आप लोगों की मदद करने के लिए तैयार ना हो. So please, आप लोग इस इंक्यूबेटर नेटवर्क में आए और इस इंक्यूबेटर नेटवर्क की शान बढ़ाएं, क्योंकि इंक्यूबेटर्स की जान आप लोग हैं. आप लोगों से इंक्यूबेटर्स चलते हैं, इंक्यूबेटर से आप लोग नहीं चलते हैं. धन्यवाद.
Thank you, Mohit ji. Mukesh ji, as a Lemon mentor, the chief Lemon mentor, your closing remarks, please. I request you to unmute yourself.
At the very outset, thanks to everybody. It was, in fact, at times I felt that I am an incubatee, getting valuable inputs from the people who are heading the big incubation centers across India. And it was a pleasure for me. Believe you me, I had got few insights which I'll be surely transferring to the people whom I interact with in times to come. And it was great to have you all here today. Lemon is trying to do something good, and we need support from you all. Everybody is trying to good in their own field, but when we have decided, we collaborate together and create a bigger impact in the society and help the young minds to grow big, create that kind of a unicorn. Fine. Thank you very much, Saurabh.
Thank you, Mukesh ji. Thank you for the words. So Lemon, I think we are into a community building program, and we are trying to build a community for entrepreneurs where we can support each other, we can learn from each other's mistakes, we can take leverage from each other, get a network, make a network. So we are trying to do this through our three platforms which we have, that is Lemon Ideas, Lemon School of Entrepreneurship, the Innerpreneurs. So these are the three platforms which are there trying to do this for all of you. And we have been doing this Pagalpan, whatever the CEO always calls, that is, we have started doing this since 2013, and we have been self-sustainable till now and hope to be sustainable ahead also. With this closing remark, I thank all the panel members, Tarun Chaturvedi ji, Dr. Mohit Dubey, Mr. Harilal Bhaskar, and Mr. Anup Jalote, who had to leave in between. So for being with us and spending your time and giving the valuable insight into this, how and why of incubation, to the participants who are seeing us on YouTube today, and this will always be available on the internet whenever they want. They can keep seeing it again and again. Thank you all. Thank you very much for being here. With this,
thank you, Saurabh ji. Thank you, Mukesh ji.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mukesh ji. Thank you, Saurabh ji. Thank you so much.